Welcome back to Dungeon Damsel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the book that's been requested that I cover the most on a variety of my different social medias over the past few months. I keep getting the same thing. When are you covering Dungeon Damsel's Unnatural Selection? Today. Well, today is when I'm looking at it. Quick overview, this is a expansion book, so you're still going to need the ShadowDark book, but it's got 12 new ancestries, 6 classes, over 100 spells, I think around about 100 monsters and creatures. It's got a gauntlet one-shot right at the end of the book, and some really good things in there. So I will go through it, but before we do that, I'm just going to show you where you can pick it up. No drive-through RPG link for this one. So this is a direct purchase only, and you can buy it as hardback here. It does come with a PDF, around about $45, and you're going to do it direct at the DungeonDamsel.com website. And while you're there, you can pick up a variety of dice that go alongside it, a dice bag. We've got the extras here, which are, I think it's six player characters, and then the map for the gauntlet at the back of the book. Or you can just pick up the PDF here for $25, and then you've got a free quick starter guide. So the links for where you can pick it up will be in the description of the video. Right, let's just jump straight over to the book then. Front cover of the book, I really do like. The weird thing is, it doesn't have anywhere telling you it's Unnatural Selection. But this is now the book that I see floating around almost everywhere on photos across social media. I couldn't work out what it was until I picked this up. And we've got this sort of Reaper character here, which will make sense as we get into the book. The book itself, 159 pages. And as with all these books, you're going to start off with, we've got the executive producers and the writers. I think that pronounced Zane, I'm going to say, and Bunny Danielle. Then there's a variety of artists in the book. It's not hyperlinked like the main ShadowDark book. Variety of playtesters and editing is here. I can start off, as with all these books, we're going to go straight into the contents. And the first part of the book is characters. So if you are a player, you can stay around for around about half of the book. And then once we get about halfway point, you're going to have to leave. Okay, so because as we're going through the players section, so the ancestries, the new classes, well, I should say the new amazing classes that are in here, different backgrounds, new gods, pantheons, new gear, character names, that's fine. We can go through that. The new magic section, you're going to want to stay around and have a look at the different types of magic and the magic sections. But once we get through the gameplay, monsters, treasure, and especially the gauntlet adventure, you kind of need to be gone. First thing I'm going to point out, though, before I get into the book itself, is throughout the book there is some absolutely amazing art. We can see here there is so much art in here on different pages, and lots of artists to thank for their work. And, you know, we're just starting off here. This is the Plague Doctor, which we'll come on to when we get onto that class. I can't quite tell which one's my favourite of these classes. I think I pretty love them all. Opening the book, like ShadowDark book, has this wonderful story. It's nice and quick. It's only 2 pages long. I do recommend you read it. And it's actually one of those, if you're struggling for trying to find players that won't move across from 5th edition to ShadowDark, maybe give them this story to read. It's a good story. Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil it. Yeah, go and read it for yourself. So here we've got, I assume this is a tiefling, which is one of the player characters, one of the new ancestries. So as I said, got 10 ancestries. So there's Shalion, which is a type of turtle, dragonborn, forest elf, half troll, shadow elf, and the tiefling. All will, like you'd expect with ShadowDark characters, having their own languages and then variety of different powers. So the dragonborn, as you'd expect, has got breath weapon. Half troll, they're going to be able to regenerate hit points. So that's going to be quite an interesting one. I can already think of one of my players that's automatically going to be pulled towards the half troll. The Shelian, I think that is. It's a turtle, so that's going to have an increased AC. And then tiefling, once per day. You can see the heat signatures of living creatures for 3 rounds. I think in my opening bit I said 10. Actually, there are 12 in here, including my current favourite of these, which is the Risen. So Mycelian is a mushroom purple people. We've got sort of slime folk as well. They can do a slime form. But these Risens are resurrected heroes. So recently dead people there, and they just get this wonderful power, corpse walking. So at 0 hit points, you remain active, but you're still dying. and someone else can stabilize you. And if you take, you basically, if you go to double hit points, you're still alive until you get to that. You completely double your amount of hit points. Really, really great. And then we've got a rat folk here, and then a tree, which I think people might abuse somewhat with its plant medicine. So take 2 damage to sprout a healing berry on your body. Eating it will regenerate 1 hit point. With a priest or 2 priests in the party, that could be quite abusive. Obviously, you're going to make sure the berry disappears. One thing I want to draw attention to is on the side of the book, we've got this sort of grey, what's it, sort of column here. And I like these. So Paizo does it really well with Pathfinder. And all you do is, as you go through the book, the different sections, it moves down. So I assume if you have a real book, you could probably flick through and be able to see it. But even in this, it's not hyperlinked, you can't click on it. But I do like the fact you can easily just see the different sections of the book, okay? Right, let's get back into the Ancestries. So those are your 12 Ancestries, not 10. I'm struggling with these because we've got 6, and I normally tend to have a favourite. I think there's one that's my least favourite, and the rest are absolutely amazing. This Beastmaster class, all weapons, no armour, D8 hit points, all stuff that you're kind of going to use. But what you're going to get to do is transform into... If you ever played Werewolf the Apocalypse, they have like the near form, so Hispo and Glabro. And this gives me that sort of sense, so because what you're going to be able to do is do these special bestial attacks. So you can either do a wolf attack, bear, cobra, or eagle. And so as opposed to having normal weapons, you're just going to be able to, do a cobra bite or bear claw, etc. Really, really good. But on top of that, you're going to also be able to change into a beast form if you need to. The Fiend... really, really good. Discipline Infernal Keepers and Diabolic Pyromancers. This very much feels like 5e's version of the Warlock. Again, all of this, like the fight, you get the fire bond with a demon, variety of talents as you'd expect. But these pyromancy talents really remind me of the Warlock powers. And you're going to get one of these at first level, and every level you're going to get to roll one of these on a d12, and it will give you things like special abilities. So as an action, activate for 5 rounds, adding +1 to your AC. If you roll it again, you can add +2 to your AC. Boiling Blood Spray. When a firebond weapon strikes a creature, Scorched Blood deals 1 damage to the creature in close range, +1 for duplicate. Really, really, you're going to have these really interesting, wonderful powers on top of your standard abilities that you're going to get. Grave Wardens. I always want to play a Necromancer. I'm never allowed to play a Necromancer. Now, this is a Necromancer, but different, because, take you to the front of the book, this is your Grave Warden, because what they get is a scythe, and they can do the scythe touch spells. So as they... and sort of do your touch spells, you're going to get +1 to casting, so it's going to be a little bit easier to do that. You're also going to get your spells and spells ability, but it's on Constitution, which is a really handy ability for a caster, because you can superstat it maybe, but who doesn't want to play a Necromancer, but with a different sort of Grim Reaper twist to it. Ovate class, this looks to me like a druid, because you are friends with the animals, you're going to have languages to speak to the animals, you've got an animal companion, you can calm animals throughout the day, and you can train them to come alongside you. But also, you're then going to have spells, a new spell list, I should have said that as well, for the Grave Warden. They get their own spell list, all covered in here. And most of the spells for the Ovate class are very much sort of wildlife. That is that sort of theme on there. And then finally, we get the Plague Doctor class, which if you've played or heard of the Dungeon Dudes, I'm sure you will have done. They did this ongoing theme of Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which is a really good adventure, by the way. But this kind of reminds me of this, the Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde. You're not a caster at all, but you can make these magical elixirs. And so all the crafting of the elixirs on this table here. But if you want to make it a little bit harder, you can do this mask infusion. So you can actually put it into your mask, and then it will last all day. the whole ability. Because normally most of these things are like healing and toxins that last for 1d4 rounds, or might be 5 rounds, whatever it may be. And depending on the delivery method, it might last longer. But if you put it into a mask infusion, it's just going to keep going and going all day. Really, really interesting. And then finally, we've got the really annoying shaman. And I'll explain why it's annoying here, because with the wrong player, this could drive anyone mad. They've got this wonderful ability. So the shaman, they do this healing circle. So once per day, you can perform a drumming and chanting meditation and heal a lot of people. Really, really strong ability and power. But the chanting, to cast spells, they need to be able to chant and bang a drum. And I played a bard in the Descent into Avarice, I think, adventure. And I had a Tantan, and I drove everyone absolutely mad during that adventure. And I think you might get that with this, because if they basically have to chant to do their spells, which, as long as the player doesn't bang drums, thematically it's a really good idea, but it could come with its own wonderful problems. But what they do get, though, is they get a DC 9. So they are going to be able to cast spells a little bit easier across the board than everything else in the game. So those are your 6 classes on there. We then get some backgrounds. So these are in addition to the ones in the ShadowDark main rulebook. We have got a D20 for 2. So there's 2 new tables. So that's going to give you 3 tables. So technically, I imagine you could roll a D6 divided by 2 and then pick from them, or just allow the players to pick from whichever table they want to go through. Because we've got the Shaman and the Ovate class, they are going to need sort of more natural god type spirits. And we've got 6 of them here, all neutral, but they do still represent a sort of spectrum. So even the one over here, which represents sort of death and transformation as well. And then, so is it Aelion? I shouldn't try and read out loud on God's names, but this is like the Woodland Guardian. So you have 6 different ones to pick. This is really specifically, it's aimed for the Shaman and the Ovate class in here. Death Pantheons. We have got 4 more Death Pantheons, which is always good, especially because we've got Paradine here, which is a lawful Death Pantheon. You don't really get that many gods that are associated with the death and still lawful. So yeah, that's quite a nice twist on it. And then we've got Dominus. Remember Dominus? He is going to be appearing several times further into this book. Titles, as you'd imagine, all 6 classes have got new titles as well, which obviously just helps sort of flesh out the character when you're trying to gain an advantage on a variety of different things through the gaming sessions. Languages. All animals now have got their own language, and as the Ovate is trying to communicate with other animals, they are going to have to pick a couple of animal languages to talk. I didn't overly like this section, because I was thinking, there's too many languages already. And now you're going to kind of weaken them a little bit. But I think I understand what they're going for here, because if they could just sort of Dr. Dolittle talk to any type of animal, it probably does make the Ovates a little bit powerful, because they've been able to communicate with them. So they're picking 2 initially, and so it's also going to reduce the amount of animals they can train and work alongside, which may be good from the Games Master point of view, or the players might feel a little bit disappointed that they are going to have that restriction on them. So maybe talk to the Games Master, and you could look to... This is a section that I think I'd probably remove it if someone wanted to go the Ovate. I just like the ability to, if they're only going to have 2 languages, which is all they get, and their languages to talk to animals, just probably let them talk to as many animals as possible. New gear section here, which... Again, a little bit on the fence on this one, purely because of this, which is the finesse weapons, which we saw in 5th edition. I get what they're going for, but the problem with finesse weapons for me is it makes dexterity quite a super stat. And because the players can just dump everything into dexterity, get a higher AC, and still be able to hit, because you don't need to do the extra damage, and you don't get a damage bonus in ShadowDark. Obviously, you need a high strength and possibly a high dex to sort of dodge out the way, but also to hit. This means that you can super stat, dump stat your strength to a moderate effect. Yes, it's going to affect the things you can carry, But yeah, I like the feel of it. I think possibly things like the rapier with doing a d6 with finesse, maybe a little bit high. It's also got this injectable sort of trait in here as well. Like that, I do like the fact you can turn all these weapons into injectable weapons. And then we've got the lash weapon as well for the whip. And I like this thematically. It is finesse, so a little bit on the fence, but it's got injectable and lash. So you can use it as a whip for whipping things, and you could inject people from a distance. Great idea. Character names. All 12 classes are going to, well, ancestries, are going to get some random names to help them out here. We're into the magic section. So the start of this magic section is really about how it works. The Grave Warden does unnatural magic, and the Shamans and the Ovates do ritualistic and earth magic. Shaman, obnoxiously, needs to be drumming instruments while singing or chanting to perform the spells. If they can't do those, they're going to be at disadvantage to cast their spells. So just ask your player not to keep banging on the table or singing or chanting. Maybe. Could wear quite thin. Like the idea, though, it is really good because they start at that 9+ as opposed to everyone else at a 10+. So there is the chance for disadvantage here. So as a good games master, there's things you can do to restrict their ability to chant, or, putting a knife through their annoying drum. So while we're talking about chanting is the same type of things as a spell. So it's just called chants, really, for the shamans. And like sort of focus spells, they're going to have to maintain their concentration and roll for it each round. Raising the Dead as a Grave Warden, it is restricted by the levels of the Grave Warden itself and the creatures that they're going to play. Rolling ones for the Grave Warden and the Shaman and the Ovate are slightly different. The Grave Warden sort of gets away with it like the Wizard class, so he's just not going to cast a spell until he takes a full rest. The Shaman and the Ovate, they unfortunately are then going to need to go and purge themselves and do a ceremony. Ceremonies are coming up very, very quickly, so that will soon answer. You're going to have to spend, very much like the priest, you're going to have to spend an amount of money and then just put on a ceremony to then go and get your ritual or chant back. Mishap table for the Grave Wardens, which I always appreciate when someone creates new mishap tables from level 1 to 3 and from 4 to 5, ending in, you can permanently forget one spell here on the D12, or you can have a powerful lich trying to destroy you on the 4 to 5. Finally, on this section, we've got, I think it's, I tried to count them and I lost count, and it's around about 100 brand new spells for the Grave Warden, the Ovate, and the Shaman. And this section is absolutely huge. It's 30-40 pages of just lots and lots of spells. So I'll say what I mean. Well, let's just pick one here. So we've got this Ovate spell here, Life Wolf. So this isn't until allies are stable, so it's near range. You summon a celestial wolf that acts on your turn. It spends its movement and actions to save the dying unconscious allies, using one action to magically heal them to 1 hit point. So this is just a wonderful Life Wolf you can just set up to go round. So they all are sort of real on theme. There's lots of ones for the Grave Warden that are sort of about protecting the variety of undead. So here we have got like raised dead, and then so all the Shaman ones, Poseidon passes like Moses going across. Was it the Red Sea? I think it was the Red Sea. Just really, really good. Reduce animal. If you're Ovate, you can make your animal a little bit smaller, so it's not going to go and tear your face off if it's a giant bear. And then variety of summoning animals, summon giant animals as well. So the Ovates, the Ovate really does feel like a druid, but I really appreciate the work and effort they've put into these. So it's around about 100 odd spells. So that is it for a player. So if you're a player, time to leave. Games Master, you can stay for the rest of the book. So I say at the halfway point, roundabout. So gameplay, we've got the ceremonies. So this is the bit where you can do them at any time. So this replaces or substitutes, not necessarily replaces, carousing in the main book. So again, Ovates and Shaman can do this. It just gives it a slightly different twist, because carousing doesn't kind of make sense for Shamans or Ovates into nature. exactly the same sort of prices to do it for the bonuses. And again, we're looking down the list of, all the way up to 6 XP and advantage on different things. Curiosities is one of my favourite parts of the book. It's a really, really interesting new rule. So curiosities enhance the sense of wonder and exploration in the adventure and environment. It is recommended to include at least one curiosity in every dungeon to complete quests. You're going to need some dice for this, and you can do all these randomly. I would, but I'd probably roll them up before the room, so you're aware, and roll up 3 or 4 and then see what fits for the part of the adventure you're using. And I'll explain why. Because what you're going to get is you're going to roll the type of curiosity. So first of all, what we're going to do is roll a d12 and a d4 to find out what type of curiosity we've got. So let's say we roll on here and we roll an 11. So it's going to be some sort of object. We roll a d4 and then we'll roll the d20 again. And for example, let's say it comes back as a crown. So we'd rolled a 3 and then a 14. So we know the curious thing in the dungeon or wherever it may be is a crown. So we need to find out what it's made of. So we'd roll a d12 and a d4. So let's say roll a 7 and a 3. So it's a crown made of skin and it's made of faces. This is gross already. What we need to do now is give it some sort of characteristic. And it's going to, so let's go, a 4 and a 3 again. So it's going to move around. So this crown of faces is going to move around and it's going to be floating in the room. And the player's going to need to do some sort of interaction with it. And in this one, they're going to be rolling. It's still a d12, isn't it? So sorry, d12 now on this one. And so they're going to roll a d12 and to complete it, for argument's sake, and they roll a 4, they might need to actually wear it to solve the problem. So as opposed to just putting it in the backpack, they're going to have to wear it and work out how they're going to wear it. And then there'll be something. So what will they gain from it? Let's say here, I'm just going to go down to a 79 here. So the alter polymorph self. So they could actually just put the crown on and they could cast the polymorph self. So I would have a few of these rolled up. It's a really amazingly interesting table. And I can see why they say do one around. Probably the best part of this book is this curiosity section. Then the next sort of 30-40 pages is we're getting into monsters, and so we've got lists here with companions because the ovate can have a 0 level companion, and some insects here, and we've got more natural animals, and the asterisk will be showing, it just sort of shows this is the page in the main ShadowDark book. Anything else without an asterisk is going to be found in this book. So you're going to expect in the monster manual an awful lot of monsters. Before we get there, foul curses. Now this is a curse that I already know 2 of my players are going to want this curse, which always sounds wrong because it's quite powerful. It's going to sort of mutate the player in random ways. I like it, but it's one of the reasons, again, as a group, we do love Warhammer Fantasy because of the curses and the mutations that goes on, the corruption. This very much feels like this. You're going to kind of want to just throw this into account. You wouldn't, I don't think you'd have it in all campaigns, but you'd have it in sort of one area. They discover a man and it's something, some breath comes out and fog comes out, however it may be, or a fully mutated man on there that's coughing. There's ways you should interact it. I say I wouldn't use this in every adventure, but if someone's infected, this is cool. So what you get is you're going to change their alignment to chaotic. They are going to follow Dominus, that evil death god. They're now immune to morale checks, so they're not going to run away. They're going to become more intelligent as well. They're going to get a random mutation, they're going to get a skin deformity and a weakness as well as a power. The downside is they're never getting any more XP and they can't gain levels, but it can be cured. And after it's cured, you roll on a d8 on this table here to see if there's any ongoing effects. It says optional. I delete optional. If they're going to go down this route, deliberately or accidental, I don't see the problem with giving the players some sort of sign, mark, issue with, so people are going to know that they may have been cursed, but there's a chance that they might not do. So I'll show you what we mean. So here we've got the mutation table you're going to roll on. D20, don't roll a 19 or 20 because you're going to get 2. But things like your camouflage, you can turn invisible for 3 rounds. Extra eye, grow an extra eye on your forehead. Gain an additional attack per round for necrotic ray. That's a good thing. Also a bad thing, you might want to wear a hat. Skin deformity, your skin and muscles might melt. You're going to gain the impervious ability, and you can only be armed by silver magic. You're not going to be popular, and you're not going to be able to sort of go around. You will also have things like weaknesses here as well, so you can constantly be dying from the weakness or frothing at the mouth. You do get a power, so it is offset by a power, so things like drain and missile reflection. And then finally, once you're cured, if you don't die, you roll a d8, and if you roll a 6 to 8, no lingering effect, so that's absolutely fine. Roll a 5, your strength's going to be reduced by 2. Again, I think keep that altering effect in. That's what I would do. And then I think we are just into this huge monster manual, which is, I think it's around about 30 pages, almost 100 monsters here. And there are a variety. So we've got some apes, so a giant ape here and a flying ape. How many humans do you reckon it would take to kill a flying ape? Less than 100? Let's not get into that. Don't turn the comment section into this, because it's that. Was it that one that last year? Wheels or doors? What's the most? Is there more wheels or more doors in the world? And just cause family fights. But in this monster manual, you've got these as well. So spectral warriors. So like in the ShadowDark monster manual, monster section, you have got more flavorful sort of end level bosses, the sort of NPCs that you can build sort of campaigns around. But there's a lot of animals and lots of creatures in different size, like coyote, giant coyote as well, dead hooked dust monster, more eagles, etins. Whereas at Gut Gorger, this horrific thing with a goblin's head in its hand, so it can grow like this giant mouth, and does disease as well. Just loving the art. We've got the Creevers here. These are the most feared of all goblinoids, notorious for unthinkable, torturous acts like skinning their victims alive. And we've got a variety of those. So we've got a shaman, a dart, and then we've got a troll queen as well. Variety of different dogs, giant mastiff, so sort of taking on and sort of expanding on the mastiff from the main rule book. Puddle reapers. There was giant rhinoceroses, and then we got the scurrids, these underground people again. So we've got 4 different types of these that live under cities. They're type of vermin that are out there, and we've got a variety of scutters. Yeah, loads and loads of different creatures. More is always better when it comes to monsters and monsters manuals. And then this really, really powerful, wonderful. Is it Velthar? I think that's pronounced. It was once the highest shaman, again corrupted by Dominus. Ongoing theme of the book. Yeah, and he fell to the foul curse. And yeah, so this is your end level boss if you're going to use the foul curse in the game. So I like that. I like that that's been included. And then we've got this real wonderful. I think this is the Vine Wraith, because looking at the artwork there. Love the monsters in here. We then got the treasure. The treasure table, it sort of ends the book before we get into the adventure. And I think it looks to be about sort of 30 to 40 treasures in here. But also, we've got snake oil. But when you'll see, so Severed Hand of the Lich Lord. So I'm just going to pick on this one because a lot of them have this. And if you're a fan of my channel, you'll be aware that I love magic items with curses. They don't all have curses, but some of them do. And I just love the fact players can go and find a magical item. They'll get the power from it. And then they find out there's something bad is going to happen. So, for example, what we've got here. So the benefit, when activated, partially transfer black tendrils erupt from the hand and engulf an undead creature, dealing 2d6 damage and healing you by the same amount. So it's got that. I can't think what it's called in 5th edition, where you sort of take damage. Is it Leech? I think it might be called. But any undead within near will attack and fight you to the death. So you're going to heal. You're going to do some damage to an undead. And then everything else is just going to come back and attack you. Wonderful, wonderful. I once gave out a bow with I think it was on a botch. Well, it was on a natural one. It used to shoot the owner because I just thought it was funny. So yes, lots and lots of good magic items in there. And then we got this level 0 gauntlet. And this actually is a really interesting plot. It kind of reminds me of the Running Man TV show. Was it Killian? Was it the main guy? So in Blighthaven, the village consumed by despair and disease teeters on the edge of hopelessness. In the face of overwhelming hardships, the gauntlet emerges. An underground trial that beckons the desperate who have resigned themselves to the likelihood of failure. And through a lottery, villagers willingly enter, not driven in to go into it. And the prize, a chance to escape the slums and rise to the privileged ranks within society. I just absolutely like the fact that you've got a bunch of nobodies that want to become someone, and they go in to a game show, and you'll see why once we get into, because there's bits within the dungeon. It's only 10. It's only 10 rooms. I say only. These gauntlets have a wonderful way of making 10 rooms feel like 1,000 in absolute comedy value way. But it's really well laid out. So you've got all your random encounters, improvised lights, because there's only one torch. But you get these resonating orbs here, and they're dotted throughout the dungeon, and they allow the players to hear the crowds singing, chanting, and then you've got Cloche and Skeetle who are commentating on it. So it just feels really much like the Running Man movie, that sort of Deathmatch Island. That, here you go, you get in there, go and get your bit of fame. Everyone on the outside can see there's commentators going on. Yeah, it's really, really good idea for an adventure. At the end, to get out, they need to solve a puzzle, and they need to find the different puzzle pieces throughout here, and it doesn't actually tell you what they are in the adventure, and that's because the puzzle pieces are mundane items. Really, really, really good, because you don't actually go through and find things. They will find the puzzle pieces to get through the final door, but they won't realise what they are till they get to the end. So it's things like pickaxes and torches and stuff. And then here you go, here's your gauntlet. It's pretty much straight through, but they're going to have to go into all the rooms and discover everything, because they're going to get to the final door here at 10, and they're not going to be able to get through it without going back and finding the mundane items. So there you have Unnatural Selection. What do I think? I love it. I love it. I do love books like this. Say the 12 extra ancestries. They've got a little bit of 5e feel to them, which you can either allow players to put in or not. I'm one of those. If it's in a source book, throw it in. I want my players to go and make the most interesting, diverse, fun character they want to make from anything. So, even like the letters from the dark books and stuff, if they've got those and we're running off this, play what you want. Unless I'm, building a specific world, but it also, as a games master, allows you to, you don't be afraid to go, no, this turtle creature or the mushroom man, whatever they were called, doesn't really fit. The 6 new classes, I say 5 of them are utterly amazing. That ornate, of 8, sorry, I'm not sure on it, because I think they're sort of really restricted because of that language I don't like. So I'd probably say I think I'd get rid of the language section of that and just allow them to talk to any animal, and then just really be not too powerful. But I suppose you can always, if through play you find it is a little bit too powerful, you can either restrict the animals that the players come across, or just talk to your player and go, do you know what, I've made a mistake, I kind of want to retro it back, and it's just sort of reset it. Yes, so maybe, get rid of that. The spells, the 3 new spells and spellcasters, so well written, so well put together with their spells. Grave Warden, I want to play one of those. I don't get to play ShadowDark. I've never actually played it. I've always games mastered it. But yeah, I want to play that. Actually, I like the Plague Doctor as well, and the Beastmaster. I do love the what they put in here. I said the new spells, and I'd be able to run off a 9, but be obnoxious with you banging the drum and chanting. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I just love what they put together in here. Summoner's really good. It's nice to have an additional option as opposed to carousing. Curiosity is by far, I think, my favorite part. I think that's a section that you can take out of any game. Sorry, you can take out this book and put it into any game nice and easily. All the animals, foul curse, brilliant. Very much Dungeons of Drakkenheim, everything that's going on there in the curse, and you can sort of run that through, especially then linking to the monsters. Magic items with curses. Thank you very much. Inspired writing. I've got one big downside though, and I'm going to choose my word carefully because I don't know how much art costs, because I don't create stuff. I just comment my thoughts on other people's stuff, which obviously can come across as I try to always put a positive spin on things. Do I recommend this book? Yes, if you can afford it. Okay, so that's my huge caveat. I do think at $45 and $25 just for a PDF at 160 odd pages, I think it's a little bit expensive for what you get back in return. You know, when you think you could go and buy several Chubby Funsters books, you could buy pretty much the whole of all 8 of the Letters of the Dark. You know, I don't know. I'm glad I've got it, and I'm glad that of everything that's included in this. And I think it's an incredible piece of work. But maybe wait for it to come on sale if it does come on sale, because also you're buying it from them direct, so they're not. You know, it's not like it's going through Drive-Thru RPG where it's got to go somewhere else. I don't know. It seems a lot for £45. Sorry, $45. I look at other things I've bought over my 30 odd years in this, and I'd want something more for that. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Yeah, if you can and you don't mind, if you've seen what's in it, because and everything you in there, and you're going to use it, get this book. If you're just going to buy it for 1 or 2 parts of it, or you know you find money quite hard to come by, possibly wait for a sale. So yeah, I do recommend it, but there is a bit of a caveat as long as you can afford it and you're not sort of pushing, you know, not feeding your kids because of a book. So that's it. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you'd like to see down in the comments below. What you'd like to see reviewed next. I have got obviously a lot more to come because I keep buying more. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.